Marvel Rivals Season 1.5 is currently live, and with it comes the Human Torch and the Thing. Specifically today, though, we're going to be dialing into the Human Torch, taking a look at all of his abilities, and there's actually a whole lot more nuance to some of these abilities than I had originally anticipated. That's what I'm going to be breaking down today. Let's go ahead and jump on into it here. The very first ability that I want to talk about is not his primary attack, no, rather it's the Blazing Blast attack. This is his right-click ability, and it is going to launch a fireball that is going to deal damage or create a flame field at the targeted area, which is then going to deal damage to enemies within that small AoE. This is probably his most important ability because if you pair this with Pyro Prison, that's where a lot of the interesting things start to happen with the Human Torch, because Pyro Prison says when two or more of these flame fields exist, you can connect them in order to form a firewall that is going to either A, deal one-off high damage to enemies that pass through it, or B, continuous burning damage if the wall exists in an enclosed area. There's a whole mouthful right there. I'm going to break down all of the nuances with this because, like I said, this took me by surprise here. Let's go ahead and start off with the fact that you can cover a ridiculous distance with this flame wall here. I've got some clips in the background where we're literally, I don't have enough room in the training area in order to showcase exactly how far this thing can go. Let me break it down though, because each flame field can extend a firewall 20 meters on either side of it. If you were going to make just a straight line with this flame wall and these flame fields, this is essentially how it would work. Your first flame field would extend 20 meters out, but then you could put your second flame field 20 meters further than that, and it will come back to connect with that first flame field, meaning that with only two of these, you can actually cover 40 meters. So hopefully that makes sense, but essentially you're going to be able to go a distance of 140 meters with these flame walls. However, these are a little bit limited in the sense that they cannot go up the stairs. So you're really gonna have to be dealing with some flat surfaces in order to get this flame wall extended as far as you want it. But I think typically in a normal game scenario, you're not gonna wanna extend this flame wall to 140 meters. I just think it's absolutely wild how much distance this thing can actually cover. But let's go ahead and move on and talk about the extra bit of damage that you can get if you manage to close off your flame wall. You can see with just a line, these enemies take a bit of damage as they walk through it, but that's it. However, if I manage to make a rectangle or any sort of shape here and close it off, all of the floor inside of that shape turns to fire and is going to be dealing constant damage to them on top of that one-time bit of damage for crossing into the flame wall. Honestly, this is probably my favorite part about the Human Torch. There's going to be so much variety in gameplay that you're going to be able to pull off with these flame walls. I fully anticipate this getting nerfed in some way, shape, or form. But I want to move on into his Flaming Meteor ability. This is where he can dive towards the ground, dealing damage to any enemies hit, as well as detonating any of the flame fields that he manages to hit. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I do want to talk about the flame fields and the detonation that happens there, because it turns out that when you detonate a flame field, it does not close off the flame wall. So obviously the best case scenario for you using this ability here would be to have already activated a flame wall before you go and blow up one of your flame fields. But let's talk a little bit about the explosion of these flame fields, because if I'm being honest, the damage that it causes is very minimal and, in my opinion, really not worth it to go dive in and waste a flame field on. However, your flame fields themselves last 12 ticks of damage before they go out. So preferably you'd want to detonate one of these at the 11th tick in order to really squeeze all of the damage out of it. But that would again be assuming that somebody is just standing in your flame field for 12 ticks. In game, it's going to be moving at a little bit faster pace, and perhaps dropping a flame field combination with Flaming Meteor might actually work out. But now I want to move on into his main attack, Fire Cluster. All he does here is launch forward a cluster of splitting fireballs. This is a decent attack. It's fairly self-explanatory. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I do want to point out that there does not seem to be a distance where your fireball shot is going to end. However, the fireballs spread out the further that they go along, which at the end of the day is probably going to increase your accuracy a bit at range, being that you're most likely going to hit at least one fireball. But this is obviously going to also be reducing your damage, again, because you're only hitting 1 out of the 12 fireballs. Finally, we're going to dive into his ultimate, which is going to make it to where the Blazing Blast ability now leaves flaming tornadoes on the ground. However, you can no longer connect these into a firewall. I do want to bring up, though, that if you happen to time everything just so correctly, you can connect this ultimate ability and these fire tornadoes with firewalls if you spawn them right before you pop the ult. The firewalls aren't going to be up for long, but you do get a little bit of a window of time where you both have the firewalls and the fire tornadoes running. But really, when it comes to his ultimate, it's all going to be about laying down the fire tornadoes. I think it increases his attack speed just a little bit, but I might be tricking myself there. I'm not entirely sure on that. It did not seem like it really increased his primary attack damage. However, laying down these fire tornadoes on clumps of enemies is definitely going to break people off of a position. When it comes to the Storm team-up ability, though, this one kind of explains itself. Use their ultimates together, wipe the entire map. You're definitely going to want to keep your eye on Storm and the Human Torch this second half of the season. And then we have his Plasma Body ability, which is just one that is going to make you fly oh so slightly faster, just barely faster. But the only reason I even bring this ability up is because with the ultimate ability, there is actually no cost to the Plasma Body ability. That's all I wanted to talk about today when it comes to the Human Torch. Let me know down in the comments if you guys are going to be swapping your main over to the Human Torch and what sort of tech you happen to find. But that's all I wanted to break down inside of this video. I hope you guys all have an amazing day. I'm out.